Hey, family, and welcome to episode number 10 of Critical Sense Making Sessions with yours truly, Revolutionary Rika. Today's guest is Tiago Robinson. He is an Oakland native who is passionate about changing outcomes for Black males. He is a loving and committed father and a huge sports fan. Tiago, tell us a little bit more about who you are and choose one word to describe how you're showing up.
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me on here, Queen. It's a blessing and it's an honor to be in this space with you. My name is Tiago Robinson, and grew up in Oakland. I have a father of three, and come from a big family. And man, I'm blessed every day. That's my word. Every day, every day I wake up, I'm just blessed to be here and blessed to be part of this. So I'm blessed.
Okay. Well, thank you for showing up and agreeing to come on and have a conversation with me. I wanted to first, this week's topic is school resource officers. And so I had found a question where somebody was asking, are school resource officers real cops? And so the response was SROs, which was short for school resource officers, are sworn law enforcement officers responsible for safety and crime prevention in schools. The responsibilities of SROs are similar to regular police officers in that they have the ability to make arrests, respond to calls for service, and document incidents that occur within their jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So with that being, you saying yes in agreement to that's kind of what the roles and responsibilities for SROs are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with that being said, I was reading through the newspaper and I saw that in August, San Mateo County or San Mateo Foster City district terminated school resource officers for their district. Partly, they said because of I guess defunding the police officers and they wanted money to go to other services. And so I just wanted to get your take around SROs. Are they needed in schools? If not, what is the alternative?
Great question. And no, we don't need them in our schools. And that's just when you look at just the history, the first history of SROs was in Flint, Michigan, 1950. And so when they were put in to be like counselors and other things that was like more of community based. But then it grew out of that into, now we're up to, it was probably like a 2% thing. Now it's way over like 40 to 50% of having these police officers in our school. And we don't need them, you know what I'm saying? That money, OUSD was the only county that had their own police department in Alameda County. And so they were spending, I think, 26 to maybe 26 million per year on the police department, where you got schools that's falling apart, where you got kids can't even get textbooks. You know what I'm saying? Kids can't get the resource to get a better education. You're underpaying your teachers. And so all this other money is going to something that we don't need. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing out about that. So tell us a little bit about life growing up in Oakland in the 80s.
Well, the 80s was shady for sure, right? I'm a 71 baby. And so growing up in the 80s was very shady, but I mean, it was very, fun times. Mm-hmm. But it was also a time where the crack epidemic hit. And, looking back after being conscious, after being woke, like that shit was all a plot from the government, the CIA, Ronald Reagan, George Bush and them, to make sure that the Panthers don't come out of Oakland again. Because when you look back at it, Oakland, and I was just having this conversation with Dr. Gray, because she's from Oakland. Oakland was black. It was just black love. It was a village, right? So even if you went to the corner store, that was like black owned. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you went in your neighborhood, it was black owned, and people had black, you know, your grandparents owned their house, you know, and stuff. So it was just a different time. And even if you did things wrong, your neighbor or people in that village would check you. You know, if it was giving you a spanking or, man, you better get your butt home, your mama looking for you. You know what I'm saying? It was all love, you know, and which we needed. And then once that they dropped that crack in the neighborhood, now guys that you looked up to, now either they willing to dealing or they addicted to it. You know what I'm saying? You know, now you're starting to see things change. Like the black stores that was black owned, now it's a different race in there that don't understand you, thinking you trying to steal, disrespecting you and not respecting the neighborhood. Now you got to go look at them. You know what I'm saying? So things start to change because people start to go to jail, and you know, the homicide rates just went through the roof. And so it was crazy. It was crazy because now you're seeing homes with two parents, you know, gone, you know, or even if you from a single parent home, I'm from a single parent home, but you know, my mom had to be strong. She has 7 kids, you know, so, but hey, if you got 7 kids, and a lot of them single parent homes are gone now because people were so addicted to this crack cocaine that they're not taking care of their responsibilities. So not only the incarceration, the foster system, you know, so it was just really crazy times looking back on it. But when you in the midst of it, all that stuff, you know, you either on the side of that fence where, oh man, this shit is cool, you know. But looking back on it, man, it was definitely shady 80s, and it was definitely crazy, you know, growing up in the 80s in Oakland, man. It was just losing. I lost so many friends and so many family members, and you know, I even looked like, damn, man, something ain't right. You know, I knew, you know, mid 80s, I was like, man, something ain't right. You know, like this, where's all this cocaine coming from?
Right.
You know, because it was like, man, if you jumped in that, you were making so much money. And, you know, I was a young dude, and I was, you know, I wasn't like the top of the, you know, I wasn't at one of the top dudes, but I was making money. And it was just crazy, the money that we were making. It was just like, man, something ain't right. Where all this coke coming from? It was easy to get. It was, you know, and once you knew how to cook it up and everything and get it out, it was crazy. So very crazy times in the 80s that actually shapes Oakland now, you know, or the Bay Area, San Francisco. It shapes a lot of that because now you're coming out of the, you know, the crack babies, like you're coming out of that. But look what it did to the community. It's tore it apart. It was designed to do that.
Yep, absolutely. So thinking back on your educational journey during that time, when did you first notice school resource officers?
You know, I was thinking about that this morning, right? Which was, again, was just, you know, when Oakland was Black love. So when you look at just being in elementary school, who was your yard teachers? It was your teacher, right? You know, you go out, do whatever, play ball, volleyball, hopscotch, whatever on the monkey bars, or as they called them back then, you know, kickball, whatever, tag. It was your teacher that was monitoring your recess time on the yard in elementary, right? But then when you get to middle school, it's kind of the same. It's people in your community that's yard teachers. And I can think of when I got to Lowell, it was Mama Mays. Mama Mays, nobody went about to disrespect Mama Mays. Not only Mama Mays had 5 sons, a family of kids, you just wasn't gonna disrespect her. You was gonna go to class. You went, if you was fighting and she told you to stop, you was gonna stop. You know, so you had those people that was monitoring, you know, us, right? And I remember transferring from Lowell to Calvin Simmons, it was the same. It was Miss Hill. Miss Hill, nobody went going. Miss Hill was like probably 4'9", and nobody went gonna disrespect Miss Hill. Miss Hill told you to stop, go to class, do whatever, you was gonna do it. And so we didn't have, resource officers at the time. They would probably only, police would come in if it was something big that was happening. Other than that, you didn't see the police officers. But then that started to shift, right? So when you look at the 80s, even when Fremont High, barely went there, but the time I did go, it was still good dudes in the community that was working as, they didn't even give them, they weren't even security guards. They had some other names, right? But those are the dudes that you respected. And then you would have that resource officer that would kind of patrol the neighborhood, but not really in the school campus unless, again, something jumped off. So my first encounter really with resource officers, they were truancy officers. If you was cutting school, they would roll up on you, take you to the truancy center. And that was the only kind of, thing that I would have my first encounter with them. Not too much at school, but it was mainly outside of school. If they caught you doing school hours and you was cutting, then they ran you to the truancy center. And then I think one of the things was we got caught in a stolen car. We was at Fremont. We went up there driving around high side. And the resource officers actually pulled us over. But it was a trip. I think I started to come more a little conscious and start to wake up because it was like 4 dudes in the car. But when he called it in, it was a helicopter and about 30 police officers drawn down on us. You know what I'm saying? It was like, dude, what? First of all, what's all this for? For no reason. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So that was like kind of my first encounter with them, was like mainly like truancy. And then, yeah, when we got caught in a stolen car by the resource officer. So that was like 87, 88. So then it kind of like took a shift from there.
Okay. And so how did those interactions impact your educational journey?
Those efforts, just dealing with the police, because we always dealt with them in the community anyway. You know what I'm saying? The task force and stuff. And it was like when you was running for your life. Like, man, don't get caught, But I think it just started to become like, growing up in the neighborhood, like something ain't right. Like, what is this? Why is the police only patrolling here? Why there? And then you start to kind of get harassed, right? So mainly my thing was not in school at the time. It was mainly outside of school where these dudes was planting drugs on us. Luckily I didn't go to jail, but my boys did. Like, they would be like, drop hella dope in front of them. Be like, that's yours. No, it's not. Yes, it is. We're going to run you in unless you tell us who running the neighborhood or who did this and who did that. So you got a lot of these dudes were, looking back, I should have had major lawsuits on these dudes because they were, even housing authority was jacking us, and I never lived in the housing authorities. You know what I'm saying? So they would be off 20 blocks and jacking us and taking us to jail. But then if you don't know these codes, and don't know the law, then it becomes a problem. So it just started to, things start to kind of like, when I was like 17, I just started looking like, man, something ain't right, and I got to make a different way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to change my lifestyle, because if not, you just caught in this bubble of just stuff that shouldn't take place. So I was like, man, I'm going back to school. So that was my change after dropping out in the 9th grade, right? Even though I made it to Fremont, I never really went. They just kind of gave me a pass. I was like, man, I'm going back to school and do something different. And then going back to school just made me wake up. You know what I'm saying? But that was my drive. Like, nah, man, I can't keep living this way. This ain't right. So that's why I went back to school, because then, too, my boy ended up taking criminal justice classes. So then when we did get pulled over by the police, and they do that right now. They'd be like, do you mind if you search your car? No. But we were so used to saying, oh yeah, and then, they gonna plant something. So, once he knew some laws and stuff like, nah, you can't search our car. What are you pulling us over for? You know, tell us, either give us a fix-it ticket, or I ran a stop sign, give me my ticket and keep it pushing. So then you start to come like more conscious, like, oh man, that shit worked, right? Because you knew what you was talking about. Like, and it just made me drive even more further into like education, get my education and get me right so I can help others. But yeah, that was one of the things. So
Okay. So what inspired you outside of that shifting your focus there? What inspired you to work in education?
because I was one of those kids that's, stuff is getting done to today, like getting sent to the principal office. Well, I didn't do nothing. I remember, and I was just thinking about this, getting suspended 5 days for coming late. Like, they literally gave me 5 days suspension for coming late, but then they didn't realize that I had to take my brothers and sisters to school. So I knew I was going to miss first period. You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally had to walk my brothers and sisters, 3 of them, to school. And then, at one point I was living in the East, going to school in the West. So then I have to get on the bus. That's a whole probably, hour bus ride to get to school. So I would always get harassed while you coming late. And I would tell them, and they didn't care, And so then when I moved to the neighborhood school, it was still the same. I'll get my brothers and them to the school. Then I'm going to probably make it there by second period. And at that point, they was giving me 5 days. 5 days. Okay. For coming to school late, right? So it'll be that. It'll be teachers didn't want to deal with me, give me a referral, send me to the office. Never really gave me an opportunity to do anything, to do right. So again, once I went back to school, one of my things was, man, I want to help get involved and help the youth. And how do I do that? And so I was told, like, well, Tiago, you got to get yourself together to be able to go back to help out. And so that's what I did. I think after I didn't graduate high school, but once I got my associate degree, that was it. I was like, damn, I don't have a high school diploma, but I got an associate degree. That was a game changer for me. And so then I know then I start to kind of like go back into the after school program, even at like Glide, helping the kids there, or going back to Oakland, because I was living in the city at the time, helping the kids in school. But that was my thing, because of how I was done in school. I was like, man, we got to change this. We got to disrupt this,
Oh, thank you. How did your interactions with SROs change once you were an educator?
Man, that's crazy too, right? Because I was talking about Dr. Gray in my quad 1. I had mentioned something in there, and she called it out like, well, you were part of the problem. And 2, right? So you get into this, right? So you do all this wonderful things, right? I got my associate degree, received my bachelor's, working on my master's, and ended up getting my master's. But now I'm in the school system. Like, I'm literally, my first task was I was working overseas, right? So I was working 4 years at a private school, and that was just a whole different beast. But when I came home, I was able to work at Oakland High School, right? So I got into Oakland High, and as I was the and my position was working with special ed and conflict resolution, right? So I get in there, I'm showing them what I can do. And so one of my old teachers, math teachers, that was always sending me out, taking my uniform when I was in middle school, me and him end up clicking up. And I remember going to the office. I knew the principal. I was like, man, I need a walkie-talkie, right? And so I ended up getting a walkie-talkie, and the game changed. So I'm doing what was done to me. I'm thinking like, man, I'm about to find all this dope, these guns. I'm about to crack down on this gang violence, all this. And I was doing that, right? But each year I was getting more and more powerful. I got the walkie-talkie. Now I got my own office. I got the key to the whole building. You know, I'm making a little money, you know, but I'm finding all guns and all this stuff, but that wasn't the way. You know, now I'm involved in with the police. Police come to me, man, like, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm like, oh man, you know, this was happening in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, police, myself, we chasing dudes in the neighborhood with guns. You know, so I'm not doing what I set out to do. When I first started this journey, I got mixed in all that stuff. And I was in it for like probably 13 years, thinking I was doing something right. And I was doing wrong.
What I'm curious is that, do you attribute that to the training that you received once you came into that position? Or do you attribute that to, I get in the position of power, now I want more power, and now, you know, the more and more I'm in this position, the more power I want? Like, what do you attribute that to? Like,
I would say more power. I got lost in the sauce because the training, they didn't know the neighborhood like me. I grew up in the neighborhood, so I knew everything that was going on. You know what I'm saying? And then two, it was just like so when I came to Oakland High, I came there for not discipline. I came to help the brothers that was in special ed to graduate, to get them to come to school and be the conflict resolution person on campus to cool everything down. And I drifted away from that. Now I'm dealing with discipline all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? Like even though that was my title, I was dealing with all the other heavy stuff. So when things that happen on campus, I would get invited with the administrators like, hey, Tiago, come here. So, you know, I'm like, okay. So I'm in the meetings, you know, with the principals, the you know, people at the district, the police, and I was just gaining power. You know what I'm saying? Thinking like I'm doing something right, but I was doing it wrong. And so working with the police now, I'm with them. I'm getting the kids locked up in handcuffs and going to jail. You know, I became part of the problem. And but I'm like, man, I got a walkie-talkie and I got keys. I got my own office. Like, I'm like, man, I'm doing it right? I'm doing what's right. And I was asleep and I had to wake up from that. And one of the things that woke me up was, I think the last gun that I caught at Oakland High, right? And this time I had to, you know, they wanted us all to go to court. So sometimes when you catch them with guns, you don't have to go. They be like, you know, last second, you don't have to go, right? But this time I had to go. Like, I was literally on trial for like 2 hours. And so they were trying to say that it was a legal search. It was everything, but I felt I was set up from the district. You know, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Because I was talking to people, I was like, do I need a lawyer? Do I need to do something? They was like, nah, Tiago, you cool. And then when I get to the court, it's just me there. But it was other people that was involved. The police officer, the security guard, they wasn't nowhere around it. So it was just me. And so then I'm on trial for like 2 hours. And I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I'm on trial for 2 hours. Like, man, can I get some water? You know, can y'all give me some water? Because juvenile court is totally different. You know what I'm saying? It's just different because they're going to allow the media family, the mom, the dad, the brother in there. There's not a lot of people that's going to be in there. And so I had to kind of stop. Like, can I get some water? But it came to a point, too, and I'm going to just be real again. I wasn't going, you know, I'm going to use the word snitch because I know what the definition is, right? And a lot of people don't. They just say the word. They wanted me on trial like that, and I just took it. I said, man, Tiago, at this point, I'm going to have to just take this case where it's going to look on me, and I'm going to do that because I'm not going to tell them the whole spiel, right? I'm not going to get on there and do that. So I just took the case. So with that, I had to look at everything. And so I was like, man, I'm doing this wrong. This ain't right. The school ain't trying to address this. Why am I trying to address this? I'm in this position to help kids. So I learned the lesson. I gave them back their walkie-talkie and their keys. I'm like, well, I'm gonna just do what my job title says. And my job title says not to discipline. My job title at that point was climate and culture, change the climate and culture on campus, right? And making kids feel safe. And that's what I did. And I did a good job at it. But then now I wasn't Tiago no more. Now they wanted to sweat me on everything. At first, I can come in when I wanted to, take that hour lunch, do me. But then when I wanted to fight back against them, right, and say this ain't right, now it's like, hey man, you need to be in at this time, or you need to do this, you need to do that. And I was an educated consultant. I'm like, wait a minute, I make my own hours. I'm paying my own taxes, my own benefits, right? So it was like, once I started to push back on them, they start to push back on me. I was like, man, y'all can have this. I'm out. Because I'm only going to get in this to help kids.
Right.
And that's just what I did. I was like, nah.
I heard you say, it wasn't the training, but now that I'm listening to you, it's like, okay, maybe it was because you no longer wanted to go with their MO or their agenda. Now, one, you were thrown under the bus, it sounds like, at court, like you were the only one left to defend, right? Whatever.
Right.
And then now it's like, okay, since you're saying I don't want to do all this extra stuff, just give me what my job description is. Now they're treating you different. So I feel like it's like if you're not willing to perpetuate the same oppression that the system makes us
allow,
exactly, then you're no longer needed in a position of power or influence.
Right.
So how do you, like, what is your advice for a young man or woman coming up and that might be in a position similar to you that you were in? Like, how do you help them avoid being caught up in that same trap?
Good question. And now, a lot of the schools now are hiring case managers. They're hiring, a lot of people in the community to come into these schools. A lot of climate and culture people to come in to help students. Just don't believe the hype and don't get caught up in it. And what I'm saying is don't be there to help the kids. Because I was trying to do both sides. Like I have sense of discipline and then one foot over here, and then I had a foot over there helping kids. You can't do that, man. Keep your walkie-talkie. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to help these kids. I don't want to walkie. And so I noticed once I gave up my walkie-talkie, I was looked at differently. And I can help more kids because kids will be like, man, I don't want to go to this office. But I'll be there, be like, man, I'm trying to help you bring your grades up. So, man, just stay true to yourself and why you got in this. Mm-hmm. And, don't believe that hype of what the school is saying. Like if you're trying to be disciplined and you a case manager, that ain't your job. Your job is to help them kids. If it's getting them to school, getting their grades up, doing whatever you got to do to keep them in school, then that's what you do. If you're the climate and culture person, stay in your lane. Let the administrator deal with the discipline. And that's something I didn't do. You know what I'm saying? Because I was giving me all this stuff. I should have just stayed in my lane for what I was. But, I'm lucky that I was able to get conscious about it and get back into my groove of just helping kids graduate. Absolutely. Helping kids come to school, get them whatever they need. And so that's why I left the school. I left the school and went to the district, and it was just all gravy. Like, man, I would go to school and, you just advocating for students. Hey, why are you giving them an F? Why you got 6 Fs? You meeting with the parents, I was doing that at Oakland High. Mm-hmm. Doing home visits and all that, but all that gets taken away when you finding guns and you doing all this other stuff that's not helping kids, right? So, man, just stay true to yourself. And I must say I didn't stay true to myself. Stay true to yourself why you got into education. And the bottom line is to help these kids.
Mm-hmm. So, lastly, for that set of questions, what are you currently doing in your work with schools that utilizes SROs?
I don't mess with them at all. But one of the things, and it's something, again, I go back into, you know, Ohio, when I was there, I was going to court with those kids. You know, so now that's just my job. Like, I go to court, make sure I'm there with court with our students, making sure I'm a voice to get them off the ankle monitor, or at least get them home on the ankle monitor. And then the next step is to get them off. So I don't deal with the police at all. Like, as far as my whole thing is coming in, making sure that our kids is not getting locked up. You know, making sure that our kids are coming to school, making sure that I'm in the community, making sure I'm talking to the parents. So my role is totally different. It's like it reversed, because my job is to smash. Like, I literally get paid to go smash, because if you're not doing right by our Black boys and our sisters, then I'm gonna call it out. You know, so that's, you know, which is a whole reverse thing, right? And so that's what I like doing, like advocating for our students, making sure that our students getting college money to understand, to be able to go to college, making sure that they have jobs and internships in positions that they wouldn't be able to get into. So I don't deal with SROs at all, unless I'm, you know, going to court for our students. But yeah, so, you know, again, they don't need to be there, because they only see, because they're a police officer. Right? So they just see Black or brown kids, man, let's lock them up. Because really, man, you don't need to put no handcuffs on kids when they're in school. That's just bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Why are you putting handcuffs on them? If you had a relationship with them, you wouldn't have to put handcuffs on. Did I lose you? Oh, I think my battery is at 20.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need them. So yeah, I don't deal with the SROs, not at all. Not like I was when I was at actually Oakland High. I would deal with them on a day-to-day basis.
In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge for Black males in education?
As a student or as a teacher?
Either one.
Man, it's funny you say that, because one of my things in our classes was to get more African American male and female teachers into the OUSD school district and be able to keep them. So that's one of my things with the residents I'm working on, and also in Sarah class too. I'm doing the same thing. But you know what? Again, back in the days when it was all Black Oakland, in the 70s, man, it was so many. You had so many Black teachers from the South, women and men. We just have to come together. I think with AAMA, African American Male Achievement, I got love for Brother Chris, Brother Jerome, that they making sure that we had these jobs that we wouldn't have. And so it's up to me to do the same, which I'm doing. You know, I'm pulling brothers that's been teaching with AAMA into the leadership roles. And we got to constantly do that. And so now we got to do that with our sisters also. You know, we got to get them in the positions that they won't be able to get into. And we got to just, you know, continue to do that to make it better, because if not, they're not going to give it to us. You know, we're going to get discouraged as a teacher in OUSD, because first thing you're going to say is, man, I can go to Hayward, I can go to Concord, I can go to Walnut Creek, I can go to Union City, and I'm going to make more, right? So it's so we got to come together as a family and as a unit to make sure that we're in these spaces to be able to relate to our kids and be able to teach our kids. And I look at Dr. Taylor from McClimate. Man, I love that lady a lot, because she just true to the game, because she can retire. She's been in education and teaching in Oakland for 50 years, you know, but it's what she brings to it. It's like, we got to stand up for our babies, because if we don't, who is?
That's right.
And so we just got to continue to work together as a unit, and continue to give people jobs that look like us, opportunities into the district office, you know, because even with our brothers, we're getting them to be administration, you know, to be principals. That's how we got to grow it out, you know.
So I hear that your plan is really to build a Black teacher pipeline.
Got to,
And so my question
got
is,
to.
where do we start?
We got to start now.
But where do we start?
Oh, well, what we doing, well, and I think it just needs to be a model, because what we're doing with AAMA, like I was a teacher, now I'm in a district office, right? So we got like 5 brothers that was teachers now in the district office. We got to start now and have a model. San Francisco, like BP over there, you know what I'm saying? He came from us, he over there, so he growing that out, getting more teachers in to be able to teach our Black boys and girls, but then also getting them into spaces where they need to be. Seattle is another place that have our model, and Antioch. So we just got to continue to grow this model out nationwide to make sure that we're in these spaces. You know what I'm saying? Because our thing is like, I don't want you to be a teacher for 30 years unless you want to. But if we got another position for you, come on, brother. Come on, sister. So, what BP is doing over there, keeping that alive and growing that out, because then a lot of those brothers will start to be in a position BP is in. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we got to start. We got to use a model and come together and not against each other and say, well, let's look at what model works. If AAMA model is working, then let's use that model. If it's another model that's working to grow it out, then let's use that model. And if we don't have a model, then let's create a model.
Or maybe, it's a combining of several models, or maybe it's using all the models, because one model is not a one size fits all approach, right?
Exactly. Because if you look at Seattle, man, them brothers is like in high positions there, straight up. Like, and they started the AAMA model. And they run deep when they come down here for their training. So it's like, man, they up there, they in all type of pockets in the district, and so we got to continue to do that to make sure that we're in these positions. Absolutely. And not just be like, man, I got mines, man, you can't get yours or whatever. I ain't tripping on you. I got mines. We can't be like that, man. We gotta be together as a team, as a village.
Okay.
Now, right, like you're saying, if we got to use 7 different models or bring them all together, because each city and each place is different, but we definitely got to do that.
Mm-hmm. So share anything out that you are doing to help get others involved in eradicating police in our schools.
Well, I think one of the things I'm happy they defund the police, OUSD. I am on the leadership team to look at next steps. Actually, I got a video to watch. I'll watch it tonight. But I'm actually in that space to see what the next steps are of how they're going to spend that money, and 2, what are they going to put in? If it's like a restorative piece, and I'm, putting that in my quad 1 or in my dissertation, or are we going to use the PBIS piece? Like, what are we going to do for these next steps? So I'm blessed to be in that space, because I voiced my voice on that. I'm like, man, I want to be in there, So I told people that was going to get me in there. And then the person that was kind of overseeing it knew me anyway. So he was like, oh man, I know Tiago was doing that. So yeah, so I'm happy to be in that space to make sure that rollout is great, that we don't have to go back 5 or 10 years from now, or even a year now. So oh, no, we do need the police. So I'm happy to be in that space. Awesome. With the district.
That's what's up. Have you taken any action to work with others to eliminate policing in our schools?
Well, I was doing Black Organized BOP. They came to Office of Equity. So I was part of the Office of Equity that was created out of AAMA. Mm-hmm. So I'm, original Office of Equity staff member to get created in Oakland, so we can change what looks different, so.
Founding member, huh?
Man, founding member of first to do African American Male Achievement, 10 years ago, and part of the Office of Equity. So just being in those spaces really helps, right? Because then you can advocate when you come into these schools. Because, people look at it like, hey, I'm from the district office, then you look differently, right? Because sometimes I'll walk in like this, right, on a Friday, and then you giving them a card. Oh man, you from the district office? Hey man, what's up? You know, you want some tea? You want some coffee? It's a different, it's a different spiel, but it's just, you know, you're able to advocate to make sure that the police shouldn't, you know, they should only come there if they really have to, but they don't need to be on our campus monitoring our kids at all, you know. So I'm glad to be part of the Office of Equity, and we're actually moving a lot. Our staff is growing, like every year is getting bigger and bigger, but that's good because then we able to touch a lot of different things too.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other issues that the Black community faces that you've been working on?
Well, you know, we faced a lot because I was listening to Ice Cube this morning. It's just I mean, all this stuff is designed against us. I mean, if you look at slavery, Jim Crow, I mean, the list goes, redlining, all this stuff is against us, man. We just got to come together as one and stop hating on each other. Stop like, I'm the man, I'm the woman. Man, come together. Let's put our money together. Let's put our resource together. And let's do it. That's the only way we're going to be able to overcome this. If we're waiting for somebody to come save us, it's not going to happen. It's just not.
You said, let's do this. Let's do what?
Man, come together as one nation, put our money together, put our resource together, and let's build. Let's change these communities. Huh?
Build our own?
Build our own.
So are we dismantling something, or are we just leaving? What are we doing here?
No, we're going to stay here and just build.
Oh, so we are separating ourselves.
We separated. You know what I'm saying? We separated now, right?
Absolutely.
But if we come together, like Cube said, Cube was like, man, if we come together, we love all other cultures, it's all good, but we got to come together and give our resource in our neighborhoods. Let's take back our neighborhoods. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Let's take them back. Let's make sure that we got the right resource out, telling people how to buy houses. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna give you that loan to buy that Mercedes-Benz. That's probably $80,000, but they're not gonna give you that loan for that house or how to get that house. You know what I'm saying? So it's all this. We got to realize that a lot of this stuff is against us, mm-hmm. And so it's enough of us that been to school, you know, and been around, that we can come back into our neighborhoods and start to grow that out and coming together, man. Put that dope down. That ain't no good, man. Let's go get a job. Mm-hmm. You know, because brother's been on the corner for 30, 40 years. You could have retired doing something. Right. You know what I'm saying? So put that dope down, slap them guns out of them kids' hands, man. It's like, man, you don't need that pistol, young man. Right. You know, and take back our neighborhoods. We have to. Mm-hmm. Because then that would start to change. Like, you take back the neighborhoods and start buying up the neighborhoods, right? Then it's going to be different because now you control the police. But you come in our neighborhood, ain't nothing happening over here. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. When we got to take it back, we got to buy it up, and we got to put our money together and our resource together.
I got a homeboy out of Richmond that's saying the same thing. He like, we need to we need to grow our own militias to make sure that we're safe. We patrol ourselves, and we need to pool our resources to buy up a bunch of land. He's saying the same thing. So I've heard that, which I think that's definitely an option. And because to me, I think it all got to be torn down. I don't think this system is.
I agree.
It works for white males, right? That's who it was built for. Now, other people sometimes get perks out of it because of their connection to those white males. But the reality of it is, no matter how many tweaks, how many amendments, it's never going to be right because the system is designed to do what it's doing, to promote white male patriarchy. So we, in our minds, think we can create some type of policies and all these other things to change what the system is doing. I think we would be crazy to think that if we think like policy is the only thing that can change, or voting, or these things, because the system is still there.
Right, it's still there. No, I agree. As Rick Ross said, he said we got to blow it up, you know, and rebuild it. And that's what Cube was saying too. And I totally agree. We got to, And I have said this, we got to have our own schools, our Black schools. We can't allow our kids to go to these schools that they're not trying to teach because it's so different. All them ed codes is for us. You know, all these penal codes is for us. Yeah. Everything is designed to keep us down. If we keep thinking, well, I'm gonna send my kid to to this school. No, we got to have our own schools. Look what they're doing in Chicago. They got an all Black school. I think graduation is at 100% in college. They doing it out there. That's what we got to do. And I have always said that, you know, like, man, until we get our own schools, that's when we can make a change.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I just want to lift up a couple of the pearls I heard you say from the conversation today.
Yep.
I heard you talk about having awareness and education on law enforcement. That's the policies, the laws, as well as the employees. I heard you say school will help shift your focus. So for those people who are struggling with school or don't see the value in it, like staying in it and being resilient will help you shift your focus for life too. The other thing I heard you say is to help others. In order to help others, you have to help yourself and get yourself together first.
Yep.
Keep the kids at the center. Educators must stay true to why they started this work. And so keeping the kids at the center is usually why you started the work, is because you enjoy working with kids. So I think that was one that really stuck out to me. Advocate for access and opportunity for all our students.
Yep.
Build a Black teacher pipeline. Be together as a team and as a village. Police do not need to be on our campuses monitoring our kids. And the last one, which I think is the most important, is we need to build our own schools.
Yep. Man, I like how you put all that together.
You said that. That's what you said.
No, I mean, it's just how you just broke it all the way down. Like I was talking, saying a lot, but you were able to pull the key points out of that. And that's dope.
Dr. G in the Lord.
Yeah, I see. This is dope.
This is dope. So I want to say thank you for coming on and sharing your testimony and a piece of your story with my audience and with the audience. So is there one last word or tip that you want to share out that if you feel like the audience has to know, the last voice that they hear will be yours?
Man, again, stay true to yourself. Raise your babies. Let's raise our babies, man. Let's be in our babies for our fathers. This is just to our, man, our Black fathers, man. Take care of your kids, man. If you're out and you're not incarcerated and you're alive, man, go see your babies. Go be with your babies. Be part of your baby's journey. If you are incarcerated, man, it's a village out there. Reach out. Reach out to these babies, man. That's like one of the things that, I see in our Black males, man. They're so angry that they don't have their daddy in their life. You know what I'm saying? And we got to take back our families. We got to take back our communities. We got to protect our queens. We're not doing enough of that. That ain't happening at all on no front. So it's on the Black man's shoulder. We got to. And if we don't, we're going to be in trouble. But we have to, because we've been around. It's a lot of resource out there. It's a lot of information. It's a lot that we can do. We got to take back our families. So I want to say that.
Thank you.